Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gopinata Radha Gopinata Shri Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadramaya. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnu Paramahamsa. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Yantraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Thai Gaur Premanande Jai. Shri Radha Gopinath Ki Jai. Namaskar Dashnam Sambhutane Shmitane Santune Chapali Rasham Chamakta Chapanam Sabram Sadigam Sansavisman Maha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 3, Chapter number 8, titled Manifestation of Brahma from Vishnu. Text number 25. Ayamato vistarata samana. Ayamato vistarata samana. Dehena loka traya sangrahena. Dehena loka traya sangrahena. Vichitra divya bharanam sukhanam. Vichitra divya bharanam sukhanam. Krita shriya pashrita vesadeham. Krita shriya pashrita vesadeham. Ayamato vistarata samana. Dehena loka traya sangrahena. Vichitra divya bharanam sukhanam. Krita shriya pashrita vesadeham. Ayamato vistarata samana. Dehena loka traya sangrahena. Vichitra divya bharanam sukhanam. Krita shriya pashrita vesadeham. Ayamato vistarata samana. Dehena loka traya sangrahena. Vichitra divya bharanam sukhanam. Krita shriya pashrita vesadeham. Word for word translation. Ayamataha, by length. Vistarataha, by breadth. Swamana, by his own measurement. Dehena, by the transcendental body. Lokatraya, the three upper, middle and lower planetary systems. Sangrahena, by total absorption. Vichitra, variegated. Divya, transcendental. Abharana amsukhanam, rays of the ornaments. Krita shriya apashrita, beauty created by those dresses and ornaments. Vesa, dressed. Deham, transcendental body. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: His transcendental body, unlimited in length and breadth, occupied the three planetary systems, upper, middle and lower. His body was self-illuminated by unparalleled dress and variegatedness, and was properly ornamented. Purport: the length and breadth of the transcendental body of the Supreme Personality Godhead could be measured by his own measurement could only be measured by his own measurement because he is all-pervading throughout the complete cosmic manifestation. The beauty of mature nature is due to his personal beauty, yet he is always magnificently dressed and ornamented to prove his transcendental variegatedness, which is so important in the advancement of spiritual knowledge. So short purport, we'll cover the next text also, text number 26. Pumsam swakamaya vivikta margir abhyarchatam kama dughangri padmam pradarsayantam kripaya nakendu mayukabinangulicha rupatram. Translation: the Lord showed His lotus feet by raising them. His lotus feet are the source of all awards achieved by devotional service, free from material contamination. Such awards are for those who worship Him in pure devotion. The splendor of the Transcendental rays from His moon-like toenails and fingernails appeared like the petals of a lotus flower. Of a flower. Purport: the Lord fulfills the desires of everyone just as one desires. Pure devotees are interested in achieving the transcendental service of the Lord, which is non-different from Him. Therefore, the Lord is the only desire of the pure devotees, and devotional service is the only spotless process for achieving His favor. Srila Rupa Goswami says in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11 that pure devotional service is jnana karmadi anavritam. Pure devotional service is without any tinge of speculative knowledge and fruitive activities. Such devotional service is able to award the pure devotee the highest result, namely direct association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. According to the Gopal Tapani Upanishad, the Lord showed one of the many thousands of petals of His lotus feet. It is said, Brahmano asau anavaratam me jyata stuta prarardhante so abhujyata gopa veso me purastat avir babhuva. After penetrating for millions of years, Lord Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai. After penetrating for millions of years, Lord Brahma could understand the transcendental form of the Lord as Sri Krishna in the dress of a cowherd boy, and thus he recorded his experience in the Brahma Samhita in the famous prayer, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksul Mitamena Tasmei Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class. So we're continuing our discussion from the chapter 8 of 3rd canto titled Manifestation of Brahma from Vishnu. So here we're seeing currently the birth of Lord Brahma at the start of creation of this universe. So we read how from Garbhodakshay Vishnu's navel, a lotus flower stem sprouted up, and Lord Brahma, he found himself on top, at the top, born on top of the lotus flower. And initially we were reading how Brahma, he was trying to figure out who he is. He was asking a lot of questions. Who am I? What am I doing here? Where did I come from? What is the purpose of my life? And Prabhupada was explaining that this is the sign of intelligence, and this is the duty of all human beings to question, who am I? What is the purpose of my life? What am I supposed to do? Where did I come from? So in this way, Brahma, he had all these questions and doubts at the start of creation. And then he notices that he's situated on this huge lotus flower, and then he's seeing the stem is going downwards. So he thought, maybe if I go downwards, I can find the source and I can figure something out. So using his own senses, using his own endeavor, he starts searching downwards to find the source. But no matter how far he goes downwards, although he's getting closer and closer to Garbhodakshay Vishnu, he's still unable to attain him. So in this way, Prabhupada was explaining in his purport, we were reading, that through our own material senses, through our own endeavors, it's impossible to attain Krishna. The only way one can reach Krishna or attain Krishna is by rendering devotional service. As Srila Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamitra Sindhu, Atashi Krishna Namadi, Na Bhavid Graham Indriya, Sevan Mukhe Hi Jiva Do, Swayam Eva Spurti Ada. So Rupa Goswami is explaining that Krishna's holy name, His transcendental form, His beauty, His pastime, His glories, these things can't be perceived through our own material senses, through our own endeavors, using our material senses. It can't be achieved. The only way one can attain Krishna, get Krishna's favor, realize Krishna's form, beauty, pastimes, is by engaging in devotional service, beginning with the tongue. And when one engages in devotional service, then Krishna himself, Swayam Eva Spuriti Ada, Swayam Krishna, he himself will reveal himself to us. Because Prabhupada explains Krishna is unlimited and we are so tiny, small and insignificant, so how can we ever conceive of perceiving or experiencing the unlimited? Only if the unlimited, by his own will, chooses to reveal himself, only then can we perceive Krishna, his glories, his pastimes, his beautiful transcendental form, so on and so forth. So in this way, Brahma, he was trying with his mature senses, endeavors to attain Garbhodaksha Vishnu, but he was unable. So then he went back to the top and he was instructed by Garbhodaksha Vishnu to engage in tapasya. And yesterday we were hearing from Kamsari Prabhu how wonderfully Brahma, he's showing the ideal example of a devotee or ideal example of a disciple. So Brahma's spiritual master is none other than Vishnu himself, and he just got one instruction, just do tapasya. And he engaged not just in tapasya for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but it's mentioned for his entire duration of life, 100 years, which is like 4.32 trillion years, right? 4.32 trillion and 40 billion years. So such a huge, he dedicated, his whole lifespan, which goes for 100 years, he dedicated that whole lifespan just to following the instruction of his spiritual master, Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And we were hearing yesterday of, the immense patience, determination, sincerity Lord Brahma showed in following the instruction of his spiritual master Vishnu. So same thing, we need to also cultivate, and we see with Srila Prabhupada, he just got, just a few instructions from his spiritual master. One instruction was spread this cult of Mahaprabhu all around the world. The other instruction he got was, if you get money, print books, publish books. And that's what Prabhupada did. Through his whole lifetime, he was just meditating on his instructions, and he carried them out. So we see that with Brahma. He's our original guru. He's the head of our parampara, and he's showing by his own example how strictly and how sincerely one should follow the instruction of the spiritual master. So then after 100 years of tapasya, of his whole lifetime, which is his whole lifespan, then finally he gets darshan of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And that's what we're seeing currently in the current verses. So now pretty much for the rest of the chapter, we'll be given a lot of beautiful, beautiful verses and descriptions about the wonderful transcendental beauty of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. Yesterday the verse we read was, it was so amazing. Text number 24, when we were reading, I was listening. I was like, wow, it's such a beautiful verse. In yesterday's verse, Sukadeva Goswami was explaining that Vishnu's transcendental body was so beautiful that if you take a very beautiful coral mountain, Vishnu's beauty, it mocked the beauty of this very exotic coral mountain. And then Sukadeva Goswami was further explaining that the coral mountain, at the top of the summit, there will be some gold, and that gold will be, glittering and very shiny and giving a lot of effulgence. But the beautiful jewelry on Lord Vishnu's transcendental body, the beautiful golden helmet that Vishnu was wearing, mocked the beauty of the golden summit of the coral mountain. And then Sukadeva Goswami is further explaining that a beautiful coral mountain, it has various variegated, beautiful features, just like waterfalls. So if you can just try and picture in your mind. We haven't seen a coral mountain, but we've all seen, mountains, if not in real life, in TV or, in online, on videos on YouTube, beautiful scenic views of beautiful mountains. So there'll be clouds covering the mountains, and you'll see beautiful waterfalls, and there'll be birds flying. So in this way, it's very scenic and very beautiful. So Sukadeva Goswami is explaining that just like the mountain will be further beautified by different waterfalls, herbs, different trees, birds and creepers and flowers and trees, So in this way, the mountain becomes more and more beautiful. But the Lord's beautiful transcendental form was even more beautiful. Just like the mountain is decorated with trees, waterfalls, and birds and flowers, in the same way, Lord Vishnu's body was decorated with flower garlands, beautiful ornaments, the Sri Vatsava, different flowers and tulsi leaves, and so on and so forth. So like there's such beautiful descriptions we're reading and hearing in these verses. And in text number 26, I'll read in text 25, which we first read, it's explained that this darshan of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, that Lord Brahma he got, in this darshan, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, he was taking up the entire space of the universe. So his transcendental body was taking up all three planetary systems, the upper, middle, and lower. And one couldn't estimate his length and width. Because his body is transcendental and we're all tiny insignificant souls, how can we measure the all-pervading Supreme Personality Godhead? And that's what Prabhupada is explaining in the purport text 25. And then text 26, I'll read the translation. The Lord showed His lotus feet by raising them. His lotus feet are the source of all awards achieved by devotional service, free from material contamination. Such awards are for those who worship Him in pure devotion. So when we read this, okay, we understand the glories of Vishnu's lotus feet or Krishna's lotus feet. It's mentioned here that Vishnu, he showed his lotus feet by raising them. So he's lying down and he's personally raising his feet so Brahma could get a more, vivid darshan of his lotus feet. So Vishnu is very merciful. He's personally raising his feet so Brahma can nicely take darshan. And Sukadeva Goswami is explaining, his lotus feet are the source of all awards achieved by devotional service, free from material contamination. Such awards are for those who worship Him in pure devotion service. So when we read this, we might think, okay, Krishna's lotus feet, they're the source of all awards in devotional service. But this verse is saying it's only for those who are engaged in pure devotional service. Only if your devotion is pure, only if you're engaged in pure devotional service, then only you can get the mercy of Krishna. Otherwise, then we might think, but my devotion isn't pure. I'm still a neophyte. I have so many anarthas, so many faults, and I still have a lot of material desires. So, what hope is there for us? This verse is saying only those who are pure, only they get the mercy. But actually, it's not like that. When I was reading this, I was remembering some of the famous verses. Krishna, he says to Maharaj Ambrish in the 9th canto, if you remember that section. In that section, Vishnu himself, he instructs Durvasa Muni, and he tells him that Aham Bhakta Paradhino Hiyasva Tantra Ivaduja Sadhunam Grasta Hridayos Bhaktir Bhakta Janapriya. So in this verse, Krishna is saying that actually I'm not independent, I'm completely under the control of my devotees. Because of my devotees, pure devotion and pure love, I come under the control and I am not at all independent. Then in the second half of the verse, that's the part of the verse that gives hope for us. Because all these verses are talking about pure devotional service. If one does pure devotional service, then he will get the special mercy of the Lord. But we're not pure devotees, so what hope is there for us? So in the second half of this verse, Vishnu, he gives us hope. He says that although I'm not independent, although I'm completely under the control of my devotees, not only that, but Bhaktir Bhakta Janapriya, even the devotee of my pure devotees, even they are very, very dear to me. So yes, we're not pure, yes, we're trying to do nice, sincere, pure devotional service, but we're not there yet. Our service is tainted with many anathas or mature desires. But Krishna, in this verse to Durvasa Muni, he's saying, that's okay, even if you're not pure, you just serve my pure devotee. And these devotees or these servants who are devotees of my devotees, they are also very, very dear to me. Bhaktir Bhakta Janapriya. And in the purport to this verse, Prabhupada explains that this protection that Krishna is displaying or Vishnu is displaying to Maharaj Ambrish, we shouldn't think that this special protection of Krishna, Krishna sending the Sudarshan Chakra to protecting Maharaj Ambrish, Prabhupada is explaining that this protection is not only for great elevated devotees, but this protection of Krishna or Vishnu is there for all devotees, right from the beginning stage to the advanced stage. So we shouldn't think that, okay, I'm just a neophyte devotee, I'm just beginning, I have so many anathas, I have so many desires, so, all this special protection, this special mercy of Krishna, it's only for great devotees like Maharaj Ambarish, or great devotees like Brahma, whose devotion is pure. No, Prabhupada is explaining that right from the start, when a soul, he takes up bhakti, right from the start, when he start practicing devotional service, right from the beginning, Krishna's protection is there. Krishna's Sudarshan Chakra is there to protect that devotee, and Krishna's mercy and blessings are fully available. As long as we're following in the footsteps of a pure devotee of the Lord, like Srila Prabhupada, we're following his instructions. As long as we might not be pure, but if we serve the pure devotee of the Lord, then Krishna says he'll still be pleased with us and he'll bestow upon us his special mercy. So in this way, Vishnu assures or gives us hope also. We might not be pure, but if we serve the pure devotee of the Lord, then Krishna will still bestow his mercy upon us. I'll continue with the translation. Then it's mentioned that the splendor of the transcendental rays of his moon-like toenails and fingernails appeared like the petals of a flower. So in this last part of the translation, it's explained that it's talking about the transcendental beauty or the splendor of Garbhodaksha Vishnu's toenails. So usually, toenails are something which is not so nice to see, So someone might be very beautiful, someone might be attracted, to another person, and by the other person's physical beauty, but the last thing they would be attracted to is the toes and the toenails of that person. Generally speaking, the most beautiful person in this world, their toenails also, it's not something very relishable. Everyone's feet in this material world, they give off bad, foul odor, and the toes, the feet is the last thing one would like to look at or meditate on. But Vishnu's body is transcendental, so even his toenails are so beautiful and so supremely effulgent and so nice to meditate on. And in today's verse, Sukadeva Goswami is comparing Vishnu's toenails to that of the moon. So the moon, the example of the moon is used so often in the Shastras in describing the glories and the beauty of Krishna's transcendental form. Just like in Gaurati, we sing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is seated on a golden throne and is being worshipped by all the demigods. Lord Brahma is personally coming and doing the arti, the Gaurati, the arti of Lord Gauranga. And then it's given that the beauty of Mahaprabhu, Bahu Koti Chandrajini, the beauty of Mahaprabhu conquers the beauty, conquers the effulgence, conquers the splendor of not just hundreds or thousands of moons, but millions of moons. So that's how beautiful Mahaprabhu's lotus face is. It's more beautiful than millions and millions of moons. And when I was reading this translation, it was reminding me of one section in CC where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is personally, he's instructing Sanatana Goswami. And in his instructions to Sanatana Goswami, he's describing about the wonderful beauty of Krishna, and which we're reading in this section. So I was thinking we can read some of these verses that Mahaprabhu, he recites to Sanatana Goswami, describing the wonderful beauty of Krishna. And Mahaprabhu, he uses the same example of the moon. And he says that Krishna's transcendental body is composed of 24 and a half moons. I'll just try and find that section. So this is Madhya Leela of chapter 20. Chapter 20 of Madhya Leela, the Lord instructs Sanatana Goswami. Sorry, I lost the page. I'll just go to the index. Try and find. So these verses that we're reading now in Bhagavatam, it's a very nice meditation for us about the beauty of the Lord, and we can remember these verses when we're taking darshan. Krishna's face, okay, page 310. Okay, so this is Madhya Leela, chapter 21, text number 135. The transcendental form of Lord Krishna is compared to an ocean. A particularly extraordinary vision is the moon above that ocean, and another vision is his smile, which is sweeter than sweet, and is like shining beams of moonlight. While speaking of these things with Sanatana Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to remember one thing after another. Moving his hands in ecstasy, he recited a verse. So I'll just go back a few verses. So this is text 126 of chapter 21, Madhya Lila. The face of Krishna is the king of all moons, and the body of Krishna is the throne. Thus the king governs a society of moons. So in this verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that Krishna's lotus face is like the king of all the moons. And the body of Krishna is like a throne on which the king of the moons, his face is situated. And this king of all moons is governing a whole society of moons. So Krishna's whole body is like a society of moons, and his face is the king of all these moons on his body. So what are the other moons on his body? Mahaprabhu will further explain. Krishna has two cheeks that shine like glowing gems. Both are considered full moons. His forehead is considered a half moon, and his spots of sandalwood are considered full moons. So the two cheeks of Krishna's lotus face is considered two moons. The sandalwood on Krishna's forehead is another moon, and his forehead itself is considered as half a moon. His fingernails are many full moons, and they dance on the flute of his hands, on his hands. Their song is the melody of that flute. His toenails are also many full moons, and they dance on the ground. Their song is the jingling of his ankle bells. So another 10 full moons on Krishna's body are his fingernails. And the song and the music of the fingernails are the song or the beautiful melody which is coming out from Krishna's flute. And one purport, Prabhupada explains that this transcendental sound vibration of Krishna's flute is actually non-different than the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And then another 10 full moons are Krishna's wonderful, beautiful toenails, which we're reading today in today's verse. And the music of the toenails, or the music that comes from the full moons on Krishna's lotus feet, is the jingling of his ankle bells. So when we take darshan of Gopinath, we can meditate on all of these things. When we're taking darshan from his feet, we can observe his wonderful toenails. There are 10 transcendental full moons in Krishna's lotus feet. And the song of Krishna's lotus feet is the jingling of his ankle bells. Then there's Krishna's fingernails, and the song of Krishna's fingernails is the beautiful melody which is coming from his flute, which is non-different from the Maha Mantra. So there's 10 on the feet, 10 in the fingers, that's 20. And then we have Krishna's cheeks, that's 22. Krishna's forehead, which is half, so 22 and a half. Then there's the sandalwood on Krishna's face, that's 23 and a half, and then there's Krishna's face itself, and that's 24 and a half. And Krishna's face is said to be the king of all the moons, situated on the throne of Krishna's body. I'll continue on, text 129. Nache makara kundala netra lila kamala vilasi raja satata nachaya brudanu netra bana dhanur guna dui kana narimana laksha vinde taya. Krishna's face is the enjoy king. The full moon face makes his sharp-shaped earrings and lotus eyes dance. His eyebrows are like bows, and his eyes are like arrows. His ears are fixed on the string of that bow, and when his eyes spread to his ears, he pierces the hearts of the gopis. So now another beautiful further description is given of Krishna's wonderful lotus face. So we can meditate on all these beautiful verses when we take darshan of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. So in this verse, Mahaprabhu is saying that Krishna's face is decorated with beautiful shark-shaped earrings, and his lotus eyes are dancing. And it's mentioned that Krishna's eyebrows are like bows, and his eyes are like arrows. And where are the bows fixed onto? The bows are fixed onto the ears. So that's how wide Krishna's eyes are. Krishna's eyes, they go all the way up to his ears. And the same description is given of Mahaprabhu's beautiful lotus-like eyes also. So his ears are fixed on the string of that bow. So his eyebrows, his eyes are going all the way up to his ears. And when his glances onto the gopis, the arrows get released from his glance, and they pierce the hearts of the gopis. And in this way, Krishna, he wins over the minds of his devotees. He pierces the minds of his devotees. Continue on, next text. E chandera badanata pasari chandera hata vinimule vilaya nijamrita kason smita jyotsnamrita kanhare adamrite sabaloka kare apyayita. The dancing feature of his face surpasses all other full moons and expands the marketplace of full moons. Although priceless, the nectar of Krishna's face is distributed to everyone. Some purchase the moon rays of his sweet smiles, and others purchase the nectar of his lips. Thus he pleases everyone. So now, Mahaprabhu is saying that Krishna's face, his transcendental body, is so beautiful that it conquers the millions and millions of moons. But although Krishna is so beautiful, that transcendental beauty is priceless and it's available and freely distributed to everyone. So generally if something is very, very exotic, something is very, very special, then one would naturally think that there would be a big, high price to attain that thing. If something is very valuable, something is very rare and high in demand, then one would have to pay a lot of money, and only after great endeavor, working very hard, one can attain it. But here, Krishna's beautiful transcendental form, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining, it surpasses the beauty of so many moons. It's so beautiful, but on one hand, although it's so beautiful, it conquers all other beauties in this material world. On the other hand, the contradiction is that although Krishna is so beautiful, he's freely giving this beauty to anyone and everyone without any price. Although priceless, the nectar of Krishna's face is distributed to everyone. So this is the mercy of Krishna, that he is so easily and readily available to everyone and anyone. In one purport, Prabhupada, he explains this, that one distinction between Krishna and other avatars of the Lord, Prabhupada explains, is that in the avatar of Krishna, he is most accessible. In other avatars, Krishna wasn't so easily accessible. And Prabhupada, I think he gives the example of Lord Ramachandra. Lord Ramachandra as the king, he had to be very strict and follow all the rules and regulations. But Krishna, when he comes, he is very, very open, and he is very, very freely distributes his association to anyone and everyone. And Prabhupada explains this is one of the unique distinctions between Krishna and the other avatars. And Prabhupada says, just see, Krishna initially was in Mathura, then he goes to Vrindavan, and he freely gave his association, to all the gopis, elderly gopas, gopis. And not only that, even to the animals, he freely gave his association to the cows, the birds, the beasts, to the plants, the creepers, to the ground of Vrindavan. In this way, Krishna was freely giving his association to anyone, everyone. And further than Krishna is Mahaprabhu. Even more merciful than Krishna is Mahaprabhu himself, who even further freely gave his association to anyone, everyone. We're hearing in the South Indian tour of Mahaprabhu that Mahaprabhu would just travel, whoever he meets, whoever comes along his way. Not only would Mahaprabhu preach to them, give him his verbal association, but Mahaprabhu would personally embrace them. And this way, bestow Krishna prema of them and let them go back to their town and village and further spread the movement of Krishna consciousness. I'll continue on. Vipulaya taruna madana mada gurnana mantriyara eduina yana lavanya keli sadana jana netra sayana sukamaya govinda vadana. Krishna has two reddish, widely spread eyes. These are ministers of the king, and they subdue the pride of Cupid, who also has beautiful eyes. That face of Govinda, which is full of happiness, is the home of the pastimes of beauty, and it is very pleasing to everyone's eyes. So now Mahaprabhu is saying that Krishna's eyes are like the ministers of the king. So as we are reading, that the Krishna's face is like the king of the society of moons. So Krishna's body is like a whole civilization or like a whole society of moons. And the king that's ruling the whole body of moons is Krishna's face. And who are the close, the prime ministers? Who are the prime ministers of this kingdom of moons? The prime minister of the king of all the moons is Krishna's eyes. So the ministers, they're supposed to be very confidential, and the ministers are supposed to be like the king's right-hand man and supposed to do all, different chores and activities for the king. So Krishna, he gets things done with the minister of his eyes. So he just simply glances using his eyes, and in this way he wins over the hearts of all of his devotees. I was reading one verse recently in the Brahma Vimohan Leela, and this is related to today's purport. In today's purport, Prabhupada is saying that the Lord fulfills the desires of everyone just as one desires. So Prabhupada is saying this in the first line of the purport. So in the Brahma Vimohan Leela, when Brahma, he sees the cows and the calves and the cowherd boys all transform into Vishnu forms. In that section, it's explained that all the living entities in the universe, they all congregate and they all take up suitable forms and they all start worshipping these transcendental Vishnu forms. Unlimited Vishnu forms being displayed by Krishna to Lord Brahma. And when Brahma is noticing and he's seeing this, getting darshan of so many different Vishnu forms, in one particular verse, Sukadeva Goswami explains that Vishnu, by his glance, he created and he maintained the desires of all of his devotees. And in the purport, the acharyas, they focus or zoom in on this particular section of the verse, and they further explain that when we come and we take darshan of the Lord, not only do we take darshan of the Lord, but the Lord takes darshan of us. And when the Lord takes darshan of us, and when the Lord glances, when the Lord bestows his beautiful glance upon us, then what happens? Two things happens. Krishna, by his merciful glance, the acharyas explain, Sukadeva Goswami has explained 10th canto, that with Krishna's glance, devotees, they get sprouted or they get generated new and newer desires to serve Krishna. So all sorts of spiritual desires that come up in our heart, they're all being created by the merciful glance of Krishna. When I was reading that, I was thinking, wow, that's so nice. All we have to do is just come in front of Radha Gopinath and just take darshan. And when Krishna, Radha Gopinath, they bestow their merciful glance upon us, immediately spiritual desires, they get created within our heart. So this is the way, this is the secret Sukadeva Goswami is explaining, how to get spiritual desires. Many times we have this question, in my heart I have so many material desires and natas. It would be nice if I had, a lot of spiritual desires like the pure devotees of Lord. I would like to have or cultivate more spiritual desires. So how can we cultivate more spiritual desires? Sukadeva Goswami is explaining that you just come and take darshan of the Lord. When Krishna sees you, when Krishna bestows a glance upon us, then immediately, by the mercy of Krishna's glance, newer and newer spiritual desires will sprout up in our hearts. Not only that, the acharyas explain, the second effect of Krishna's glance is not only does Krishna create spiritual desires through his glance, but also Krishna, he protects and fulfills the desires of his devotees by his glance. So we might have already a lot of spiritual desires in our heart. Desires to cook for Krishna, to distribute books, spread his glories, engage in deity worship, so on and so forth. And if we simply come, take darshan of the Lord, and when Radha Gopinath, they glance upon us, by their merciful glance, they'll fulfill all of these desires that we have. So in this way, Krishna is doing all these confidential activities through his two most confidential ministers, and these two ministers of the king are Krishna's eyes. Continue on. This is text 132. Yanra punya punja phale se mukha darsana mile dui anki ke karibe pane dui guna bade trishna loba pite nare manashoba duke kare vidhira nindane. If by devotional service one gets the results of pious activities and sees Lord Krishna's face, he can relish the Lord with his eyes. His greed and thirst then increase twofold by seeing the nectarian face of Krishna. Due to one's inability to sufficiently drink that nectar, one becomes very unhappy and criticizes the Creator for not having given more than 2 eyes. So we know this, how this verse comes up in Bhagavatam of the gopis, that the gopis were chastising Lord Brahma, the Creator, that when we come and see Gopinath, we just want to keep seeing him more and more. The thirst of our eyes, the hunger of our eyes is not satiated, and we don't want to stop staring at his face even for a moment. But the Creator, he's unintelligent, he doesn't have brain, he doesn't know how to create properly. He's made it that the eyes are always blinking. And because the eyes are blinking for these little moments, we're unable to see the lotus face of Govinda, of Gopinath. So this is you can understand from this that when we come to take darshan of Radha Gopinath, we don't think like that, We don't think, We don't even notice our eyes are blinking. We just take darshan, offer prayers, and we go. But you can imagine the absorption of the gopis when they come and take darshan of Gopinath. They're so absorbed that they're even conscious of the eyes blinking, and they can't even stand that very insignificant momentary blinking of the eyes. So that's how, Krishna conscious they are. That's how absorbed they are in taking darshan of the Lord. We'll go to the next verse. Na deleka lakshi koti sabe dila anki duti tate dila nimisa acha dana vidijada tapodana rasa sunya taramana nahi jane yogya sri jana. When the onlooker of Krishna's face becomes dissatisfied in this way, he thinks, why did the Creator give me thousands and why didn't the Creator give me thousands and millions of eyes? Yeah, so this is again the amazing absorption and the purity of the pure devotees. When they come and take darshan, they're thinking like this, oh, if only I had thousands and millions of eyes to take darshan of Krishna. Whereas when we take darshan, we just think, okay, I'll just offer this prayer, that prayer, okay, done. Or how long it's been, okay, 10 minutes, okay, time for darshan, finish, time to go take prasad, so we can see, where are we, where are these pure devotees, But by reading these, what happens, we also cultivate, my Guru Maharaj says that when we read of these beautiful verses of pure devotional service, we might think, what's the point, These pure devotees are all the way up there and we're all the way at the bottom. But my Guru Maharaj says, firstly, when we read these verses of pure devotional service, firstly, we get purified. Secondly, as we read this, we cultivate or we get the desire to also become like this. And when we get this desire or this inspiration also become like this, Krishna, He'll change things up in our heart to also help us slowly progress, to also developing such intense, amazing love for the divine couple, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. Why has He given me only 2 eyes? Even these 2 eyes are disturbed by blinking, which keeps me from continuously seeing Krishna's face. Thus one accuses the Creator of being dry and tasteless due to engaging in severe austerities. The Creator is only a dry manufacturer. He does not know how to create and set things in proper place. So this is the way the gopis, in the transcendental love, they're chastising Brahma. This Brahma, he doesn't know how to create. Firstly, he should have, instead of giving us 2 eyes, he should have given us millions and millions of eyes, so we can nicely, properly take darshan of Gopinath. But instead of giving us millions and millions of eyes, he's just giving us 2 eyes. Then not only that, although he's, it's bad enough he's only giving us 2 eyes, but on top of that, he's making these eyes blink. How stupid is this Creator? He doesn't know how to create. He doesn't know how to do his job properly. So in this way, in the transcendental ecstasy, the gopis are criticizing the Creator. Okay, I'll script the Bengali, I'll just read the translations. The Creator says, let those who will see Krishna's beautiful face have 2 eyes. Just see the lack of consideration exhibited by this person posing as a Creator. If the Creator took my advice, He would give millions of eyes to the person who intends to see Krishna's face. If the Creator will accept this advice, then I would say that He is competent in His work. The transcendental form of Krishna is compared to an ocean. A particularly extraordinary vision is the moon above that ocean. And another vision is His smile, which is sweeter than sweet, and is like shining beams of moonlight. When speaking of these things with Sanatana Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to remember one thing after another, moving his hands in ecstasy. He recited a verse. So one reason the comparison is given to moon is obviously due to the wonderful effulgence and beauty of the moon. When we see on a full moon night the beauty of the moon, we feel immediately pleased. Another reason given of the comparison to the moon is the moon has a very cooling effect. So in the same way, when we come and take darshan of so many wonderful moons of Krishna's transcendental body, then one thing is we are amazed by the beauty. The other effect is our hearts get soothed. It's explained that, samsara dava na lila loka, that we're all suffering in the blazing fires of material existence, and our hearts are burning in this fire of material existence. We're suffering through the threefold miseries caused by our mind, caused by others, caused by material nature. So our hearts are burning in this forest fire of material existence. But when we come and take darshan of the society of moons, when we come to take darshan of the king of the moons, Krishna's face, when we come and take darshan of the minister of the king of the moons, Krishna's 2 lotus eyes, then immediately that cooling effect of the moons are there, which cools our heart and pacifies our heart and has a very nice soothing effect on us. And now Mahaprabhu will recite a very beautiful famous verse from Bilva Mangal Thakur's Krishna Karnamrita. And this verse is a very nice verse to memorize, and it's easy to memorize because 80% of the verse is just composed of one word called Madhuram. And Madhuram means sweet. So in his ecstasy, Bilva Mangal Thakur is just saying Madhuram, Madhuram, Madhuram. Krishna's body is sweet, Krishna's face is sweet, Krishna's smile is sweet. So I'll recite this verse, and yeah, this is a very nice verse to memorize. Madhuram madhuram vapurasya vibhor madhuram madhuram vadanam madhuram madhugandim mridu smitam etadaho madhuram 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 madhuram. O my Lord, the transcendental body of Krishna is very sweet, and his face is even sweeter than his body. The soft smile on his face, which is like the fragrance of honey, is sweeter still. So in this verse, Bilva Mangal Thakur is saying Madhuram madhuram Vapur. Vapur means the physical body, Asya Vibhor. So Krishna's transcendental body is Madhuram Madhuram. Krishna's transcendental body is very, very sweet. But even more sweeter than Krishna's body is what? Madhuram Madhuram Vadanam Madhuram. Vadanam means Krishna's smile. Oh, sorry. Madhuram means Krishna's face. Yes, so even sweeter than Krishna's transcendental body is Krishna's lotus face. Even sweeter than Krishna's face is the smile of Krishna. Madhu Gandhi Mridu Smitam Etad Ahu, which has a fragrance of honey. And this is even more sweeter. Madhuram, 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 Madhuram. So this is again nice, beautiful verse to memorize. And yeah, remember when we come and take darshan of Shri Radha Gopal, when we come and take darshan of Krishna. So like this, there's so many beautiful verses given here in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And actually in this chapter 21, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like in this section, he's talking about Krishna's transcendental beauty, the beauty for our eyes. But after this, immediately he'll talk about the transcendental beauty of Krishna's, of the vibration that's coming out of Krishna's flute, the sound of Krishna's ankle bells, and the sound of Krishna's, the words coming out of Krishna's mouth. So in this way, he'll give wonderful descriptions of different, for our different senses, descriptions for our eyes, descriptions of Krishna's beauty, for our ears, for the tongue, for the nose, and for touch. In this way, in this chapter, Mahaprabhu will give so many wonderful descriptions. So yeah, in these verses which you're reading now, we'll further be given more and more verses describing about the beautiful transcendental form of Krishna's beauty. And in one previous Prabhupada is quoting that famous verse from Bhagavad Gita, Param Drisva Nivartate, that if one gets absorbed in this wonderful transcendental beauty of Krishna, then one will immediately lose the lower taste to all these material beauties, which ordinarily one is attracted to. Ordinarily speaking, this material world. Prabhupada, he would often say that you just come and take darshan of the deities, and if you get attracted by the wonderful beauty of Radha Krishna, then immediately you lose your taste or the attraction to all the material beauties in this world. So in this way, just this simple act of devotion, so just coming in darshan, it's so powerful. In one verse, also Krishnaraj Kaviraj Goswami, he says that Shri Mukha Shri Anga Ye Kare Darshanas Sarva Papa Hoye Shaya Paye Prema Dhana. In this verse, Krishnaraj Kaviraj Goswami is saying that you just come and take darshan of Mahaprabhu, take darshan of Shri Mukha, take darshan of the lotus face of Mahaprabhu, take darshan of the limbs, Shri Anga, the different bodily limbs of Mahaprabhu, and as a result of this, what will happen? Sarva Papa Hoya Shaya. All the sins you have committed, they'll all be immediately burnt up to ashes. Not only that, Paya Prema Dana, you'll immediately be bestowed upon you Krishna Prema. So again, these verses, when we read them, it's just like astonishing. Really, like, I just come and take darshan,